Transportation, and I want to welcome you to this meeting to discuss the traffic calming plan for Wilmington Drive. So we can start with introductions, and tonight from FCDOT we have Ryan O'Carroll, Nicole Machakwe, and from the Braddock District Supervisor's Office we have Sally Kadalov. And Ryan has a presentation to go through, and after the presentation we'll open the meeting up to the community for any questions or comments. And if any of the community's task force members are logged on to tonight's meeting, they can introduce themselves following the presentation. Sally, is there anything you'd like to add before we start?
Steve, I got a message from someone saying that they're getting a hold screen, or that members are getting a hold screen, but we have quite a few folks on, so I'm not sure if that's still true.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not positive what we would need to do to clear that hold screen, but if it's possible, we'll go ahead and start now. And if there's anything that we can work on while we're going through, we will. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. We do have 28 people on board right now from the community, and we do see a hand up. If it's possible, they just put it back down. But we would like to go ahead and run through the presentation, and if folks can just kind of hold their questions until the end, we will try to address all questions or take all comments after the presentation. And so, Ryan, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting, and thank you all for joining us. Tonight, we're going to discuss the traffic calming program for Wilmington Drive. The Fairfax County Department of Transportation and Fairfax Connector operate programs and services without regard to race, color, and national origin in accordance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. For more information, please visit the website listed in the presentation slide. Please note that this session is being recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, and instructions for how to ask your questions will be provided at the end of the presentation. Today, we are here to explain the traffic calming process, provide an opportunity for community's feedback, and answer any questions anyone may have. So what is traffic calming? Traffic calming is the installation of physical devices to reduce vehicle speed. These devices can either be vertical or horizontal. Vertical devices are driven over, such as the speed hump shown in the upper left-hand corner. Horizontal devices can be driven around, such as the raised median island shown in the upper right-hand corner. Both types of devices make the roadway safer for drivers and pedestrians. Please note that through this process, we are not permitted to install stop signs. Here we have charts and images showing the effects of decreased speed. As speed decreases, visual acuity, field of vision, and depth perception increase. Also, with reduced speed, we can see a decrease in stopping distance. Here's a map displaying all the traffic calming projects across Fairfax County. With over 279 projects resulting in more than 665 devices countywide, every district has implemented traffic calming measures. The chances that you've driven over one are quite high. FCDOT and the District Supervisor's Office collaborate with citizens on all community-initiated projects. The program can be broken down into 5 steps. Step 1 is project initiation. Step 2 is plan development. Step 3 is community engagement. Step 4 is the ballot phase. And the final step, step 5, is going to be project installation. All traffic calming projects are community initiated. The process begins with a request from the community to the District Supervisor's Office. Once a request is received, FCDOT will complete a basic eligibility review. If eligible, FCDOT will then conduct a traffic study. And if the eligibility and traffic study requirements are met, the community will then form a task force. To meet the basic eligibility requirements, the roadway must be VDOT maintained, have a 25 mile/hour speed limit, be functionally classified as local, collector, or arterial. And if it is a collector or arterial, it needs to be a residential street. Once passing basic eligibility requirements, we move on to conduct a traffic study. For the volume criteria, we need between 500 to 6,000 vehicles in 24 hours, both directions combined. For Wilmington Drive, we had 1,684 vehicles, so we met the volume criteria. For the speed criteria, the recorded 85th percentile speed needs to be greater than or equal to 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. This means that 15% of vehicles will need to be traveling at 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit or faster in at least one direction of travel. The 85th percentile speed was 38 miles per hour in the northbound lane, and 38 miles per hour in the northbound lane, and 35 miles per hour in the southbound lane, which means that Wilmington Drive met the speed criteria in both the northbound and southbound lanes. The next step is plan development. FCDOT will conduct a site visit in the field in order to develop a draft plan. Once a draft plan has been developed, FCDOT will meet with the task force to obtain feedback and amend the plan if necessary. Then once the task force is satisfied with the draft plan, property owners directly adjacent to any proposed measures must sign off on the device placement before proceeding to the next step of the project. There are device placement requirements for vertical devices. The devices must be a minimum of 300 feet between measures and from existing stop conditions, a minimum of 150 feet from intersections, a minimum of 150 feet for continuous sight distance, and it also has to fit within the existing roadway, so we must consider driveways, manholes, utilities, and the grade of the road. So based on those requirements, we created a field map that gives us an idea where we can place a device. Highlighted in green are possible locations on Wilmington Drive. After reviewing the field map, we then conduct a field review to see if the device can fit on the existing roadway. Based on the available options in our site visit, FCDOT is able to propose one speed hump, one speed table, and one raised crosswalk along Wilmington Drive. The listed addresses are those of property owners who signed the adjacent property forms, because the devices are directly adjacent to their property. Here we have the speed hump schematic. The speed hump is 12 feet long and is 3 inches high at center. There will be a white chevron in each travel lane and speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the speed hump. This is a larger image of what the speed hump would look like from the side of the street, with it being 12 feet in length and 3 inches high at center. Here we have the speed table schematic. The speed table is 22 feet long and is 3 inches high at center. There will be a white chevron in each travel lane and a speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the speed table. This is also a larger image of what the speed table would look like from the side of the street, with it being 22 feet in length and 3 inches high at center. Here we have the raised crosswalk schematic. The raised crosswalk is very similar to the speed table, so it's 22 feet long and is 3 inches high at center. There'll be a white chevron in each travel lane, a painted crosswalk placed along the device, and speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the raised crosswalk. The raised crosswalk will also include appropriate ADA connections on each side of the street. Step 3 is the community meeting, where we are today. At this stage, FCDOT presents the plan to the community to gather feedback. And based on that feedback, the task force will decide whether to amend this plan or move forward to the next phase. If the task force decides to move forward, we will move to the ballot phase. During the ballot phase, each occupied property in the ballot area will receive one vote and send it directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period will be open for a minimum of 3 weeks. And the district supervisor's office will tally the votes and notify the task force of the result. On this slide, we have an example of a ballot. The proposed devices will be listed on the ballot, and the community will be voting for the entire plan. The task force is responsible for distributing the ballot packages to everyone in the ballot area. There are 3 ways to return your ballot by the deadline. You can mail in your ballot directly to the district supervisor's office. You can hand deliver it directly to the district supervisor's office, or you can email it directly to the district supervisor's office. Please note that all ballots must be turned in directly to the district supervisor's office using one of these three methods. Any ballots collected by the task force will not be counted. Here's the ballot area map for Wilmington Drive. In total, there are 207 ballots. In order for the proposed plan to move forward, we will need greater than 50% of all occupied properties to vote in favor. Therefore, we will need 104 yes votes. And if the required number of yes votes are met, we move forward to step 5, which is project installation. The traffic calming plan will be presented to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement, and the resolution will be sent to VDOT. Once endorsed, and VDOT accepts the resolution, FCDOT will work with the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services to schedule installation. Finally, the traffic calming measures outlined in the plan will be installed. After tonight's meeting, the task force will need to follow these next steps. The task force notifies Fairfax County if they would like to move forward with the presented plan. An optional meeting is available to meet with FCDOT to review the balloting process. This meeting is highly recommended to ensure a smooth balloting process. The task force and the district supervisor's office notify FCDOT if the ballots in the ballot area are to be distributed to the property owners or occupants. The task force will complete the ballot cover letter provided by FCDOT, including task force contact information, ballot received by date, ballot closed by date, and any additional message the task force would like to include. The task force sends the completed ballot cover letter to FCDOT for approval. Once approved, they will receive the verified ballot package. And for the final step, the task force will need to print and distribute the ballots to all properties in the ballot area. This concludes the presentation, and now we can move on to the questions and answers portion of this meeting tonight. You have two options to ask your questions: chat or speak. Once the chat item is activated on Teams, you can use it by typing your question. If you want to speak, please click the raise your hand icon, and once the host calls on you to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking on the mic icon or pressing Control-Shift-M on your keyboard. Please lower your hand once you are done asking your question. If you are on the phone, please press *5 to raise your hand. When the host calls on you to speak, press *6 to unmute and ask your question. Once you are finished, press *5 again to lower your hand and push *6 to mute yourself. At this time, please feel free to ask any questions you may have, and we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. All right, it does look like we have a hand raised first. I would like to make note that we do have a big turnout for tonight's meeting, so we would be ask you guys to be mindful and keep your questions to minimum at 3 at first. That way we can give everybody a chance to ask their questions. James, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, this is James Murtha, 6112 Windward Drive. Would you mind going back to the slide that showed the entire balloting area? I think it was before this. It was back in the presentation. Yes. Okay. I guess my first question is, who determines the ballot area?
Fairfax County DOT determines the ballot area.
Okay, and what criteria is that based on?
So basically, we're looking at the road that's being studied, any cul-de-sacs or dead-end streets that feed into the subject road and have no other access. And then we go partway down adjoining streets. If those adjoining streets have other ways to connect to the transportation network, then a lot of times the parcels along those other streets won't be included in the ballot area.
Okay, I appreciate that. And one other question. What consideration has been given to to the idea that the lack of any traffic calming measure between Rand Drive and Burke Lake Road will have the effect of shifting traffic to the adjacent road of Windward Drive. For example, where I live at the end of the cul-de-sac on Windward, if I'm coming from Fairfax County Parkway, I have the option to turn left into the neighborhood on Windward, or I have the option to turn left onto Wilmington. And with the proposed speed table hump bump, whatever it is, I'm obviously in the future going to choose Windward Drive. So what consideration has been given into this concept of shifting traffic onto more residential neighborhoods, which according to VDOT's traffic calming guide for neighborhoods at page 45, there's a requirement that traffic calming should take an area-wide approach to ensure that problems do not simply shift to adjacent local streets and parallel roadways.
Yeah, so I mean, when we do installations for the traffic calming measures, we'll generally go out and do a follow-up study to see if the devices have had, the hoped for outcome of lowering the operating speeds, but we also recollect that volume. And we will see some displacement of traffic, but generally we're not seeing enough displacement of traffic to really find it to be a major concern. There are multiple ways to, move around in this area. If you're, going to Windward on the, eastern side of Wilmington, you have multiple access points. But a lot of times if you're a driver and you're trying to avoid these devices, you're starting to add turns. So, if you add a left turn, you're really adding kind of time to your commute as opposed to just driving over the device and slowing down to the 15 miles an hour that's recommended. So, I mean, we've been doing this for a while. We don't really see that much displaced traffic. All the road networks do vary as far as their access points are concerned and the, mobility within the community. But, we'll go back out, we'll collect data on Wilmington after they're installed and see if we have displaced traffic.
What happens if you do discover that there's been displaced traffic?
I mean, generally, we're not going to remove the devices unless we're requested to by the community. And then we would go through the process of taking them out. We generally have a 2-year wait time for that. And, if the community wants to, they can ballot on it again and have them removed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your
Okay.
questions.
Thank you, James. All right, we do have some in the chat. First of all, Marion did mention that the task force members are present on tonight's meeting. And then we also have a question in from Craig and Ann. They ask, how much does this cost, and is it already budgeted in the VDOT budget?
So Fairfax County is the person or is the group that's going to pay for this. So it's not budgeted by VDOT, it is budgeted by the county. And we do have, a budget for this. We do get funds from the general fund. The cost at this point would probably be in the neighborhood of around $75,000 to $100,000, with the raised crosswalk being the most expensive element within the plan that's being proposed.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And we can give a couple more minutes to give others a chance to raise their hand, write in their question. If you need us to go to another slide to look at it, please let us know. Okay, so we have Chris. You go ahead and raise your hand. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, my name's Chris Townsend. I'm the vice chair of the task force. Thank you all for this presentation today. I know some members of the task force have gotten the question about the impact that first responder vehicles will have given these traffic calming measures. So could you talk about are vehicles like ambulances and fire trucks affected by the traffic calming measures that are proposed on Wilmington Drive?
So we're generally seeing about a 3 to 10-second reduction in response time per device. So that's kind of dependent on the device type. So the speed hump is going to have more impact than the raised crosswalk or the speed table. And then also the vehicle traveling across the device is also going to have an impact on that increase in response time.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and move to the chat right now. Marianne asks if the ballot is approved by the residents, who presents the effort to the Board of Supervisors, and how is that done?
It is just an admin item. It's an administrative item. So, FCDOT will write up that admin item. And it is basically brought into consideration by the supervisory district. So it'd be the Braddock District Supervisor's Office that is, basically asking for it to be considered. But, for the admin items, they're basically all voted on in mass. So if you have, a half a dozen or a dozen admin items, they are going to vote on passing the admin items all on time. And if they do have a question about any particular admin item, they will pull that out for discussion and consideration. Again, we've been doing this for quite a few years, and there's very few times when they've actually had discussion on the traffic calming plans that we've brought forward, and they have never endorsed one that we have brought forward.
Steve, if I could just add on real quick, as
Yes, you can.
folks might know, we don't have a Braddock District Supervisor at the moment, but I would imagine by the time this is ready to go to the board, we would have a Braddock District Supervisor. Chairman McKay is handling any items related to the Braddock District that go up for vote while we are without a supervisor.
Thanks for that information, Sally.
Thank you, Sally. Okay, so James asks, why is there only one raised crosswalk?
Well, the raised crosswalk is probably one of the more difficult items to fit onto a roadway. And I don't remember the exact reasoning why we were only able to place one, but I do know that there is a fairly significant angle on the other crosswalk location where the trail crosses. And to change that crosswalk from just a painted crosswalk at road level to elevating it, where we would then have vehicles hitting this elevation at a skew. And it's not really something that we would choose to do. I think that's one of the reasons why we did not consider that location for a raised crosswalk.
Yes, you're correct, Steve. And if I may, I do remember going out in the field, and the most northern portion there, as Steve mentioned, they are a little bit harder to fit on the roadway, and the dimensions and visibility were just not a good fit, especially in those to the north and the southern area, like Steve did mention, and that the area right in the center did have a pretty good setup for a raised crosswalk, so that's why we chose that location to propose one there. Okay, and then we have Craig and Ann asking, there is a proposed speed table adjacent to 2123 and 2124 Wilmington Drive. Is this located on the current crosswalk? And I can answer that. No, it's not.
Go ahead.
It's going to be a little bit south of that.
Yeah,
It's
so
towards
it would,
Burke Lake Road.
It would be south of that towards Rand Drive, I do
Yeah,
believe.
Rand Drive.
So,
Yeah. So it's the property location. So it's going to be right, but the crosswalk at that trailhead is a little north of that, kind of a little bit past those properties that it's adjacent to that we're proposing that speed table. Okay, and then we're going to go through the chat just a little bit more and then answer any hands that are raised. I believe I can't see the actual name. I think it just says T. Where are the new speed limit signs going to be placed in accordance with the calming measures?
so we do have advisory speed placards that are immediately adjacent to the device. So Ryan, if you want to pull up the schematic, they are located right adjacent to the device location. So they'll have a 15-mile-an-hour placard on the sign kit there. And they'll have one, facing in both directions. So that's where that 15-mile-an-hour recommended speed will be posted, is right at the device locations.
Yes, so as Steve said, that those are going to be a recommended speed. So there will be no additional speed limit signs. The speed limit will be still 25 miles per hour along the road. That will be a regulatory sign. And then we have Nisha. Nisha says, maybe I missed this, but when are we voting on this?
So following the meeting, the Wilmington Drive Traffic Calming Task Force should regather and decide if they want to move forward to the ballot process. And then at that point, they would have to, pick a date and time frame that they wish to ballot. We are kind of getting close to the holidays. So unless things happen pretty quickly for them, we would probably be holding that off until the new year.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And then we go ahead and have a phone number calling in. The last 4 digits are 9225. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah.
We heard you and then we lost you.
Okay. This is.
I think we got you now.
62. Okay. This is 6210 Wilmington Drive. First, I'd like to comment that I'm on the phone and I was able to make a connection there, but I was not able to make the connection through the other procedure that you have that I guess is a Zoom connection.
So that would be through Microsoft
Teams.
Teams. Microsoft
Oh.
Teams.
Maybe that's why I couldn't do it then. But anyway, I followed the procedure. I was not able to connect. But just a heads up. My question is, there appears to be other neighborhoods, well, not other neighborhoods, but other streets like Gooding Pond and the area off of the Burt Ponds Lane, that complex, they do not have access to any of the areas to Windward or Wilmington Drive. Are they allowed to vote?
Can we pull up that ballot map really quick? So they are not included in that ballot process. So they do have immediate access or direct access onto Burke Center Parkway.
Yes.
Okay.
But are they in the ballot?
They are not included in the ballot area.
Okay, good, because they were on the map, and that was my concern, because if they, if they did not respond, then that would be a negative vote, which would not be advantageous to the initiative that we're trying to promote here.
Okay, and they are not
Okay.
included, and we have sent out the slides as a PDF, and we can share,
Okay.
and Sally at the Braddock office can share those out with the community. And then we're also recording the meeting tonight, and so that should be available online soon.
Okay. Very
Okay.
good. Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and then we have the task force chair. Mike, you have your hand up. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, when we got the, just in response to the last caller, when we got the briefing that was sent out and we put out the notice for the notice to join us, it does have Gooding Pond in the corner as well as Burke Pond Lane. So I could see where that confusion might have caused a little confusion. The other thing, in the original back in April of 24, when this process was started and the task force was formed, the device placement requirements were very specific on the minimum distance required between the measures and an existing stop sign. It also stated that we had a minimum of 150 feet from the intersection, from any intersection, 150 feet for adequate sight distance, and it needed to fit on the existing roadway. Those elements were really critical in the choice of the elements that went forward. We did have a recommendation for one between Rand Drive and Burke Lake Road. However, during our process and meeting with the homeowners, quite a few of those homes are rental properties, and the property owners would not subscribe to the placement of a traffic calming device in their area. So the task force was tasked with reviewing, getting with each one of the property owners, going through the process, and in the final process, we went from 5 devices down to 3 devices. The Conservancy owns the property where the raised crosswalk is. So that was a fairly easy one. However, we were also notified that the angle by VDOT, the angle of the crosswalk that goes to Meadow Pond, was at such an extreme angle that it would have required us to either remove trees and realign that to the path, changing the path direction on one side, or taking over some of the yard of the vice chair's house and property, just so it could be a straight approach across the road. And that's part of the decision process of why that was not chosen as the location for the traffic calming device. But the residents who actually initiated the traffic calming request, just up from that, where you're coming down the hill from Rand Drive towards that crosswalk, there is a site issue there because you come through a slight curve, and that's why that position was not chosen, and it was moved further up towards Rand Drive.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we do need more sight distance when we're looking at a crosswalk than just a physical device, just a speed on per speed table. So we do need a greater length for vehicles to be able to respond to a pedestrian in the roadway.
Okay, yeah, and thank you very much. And I believe Mike did answer James' question, but James' question was what's the thinking logic behind device placement or no device between RAND and BLR? So I believe Mike did touch very well on that. We unfortunately could not get, or the task force could not obtain sign off from adjacent property owners, and we could not propose specific devices just because of the device placement requirements. Okay, so we can leave the floor open for people that want to write in more questions or want to raise their hand to ask questions. You can always feel free, like Steve said, we are going to have this within a week or two, recording available for everyone to view. Once we have it available, we'll be sending it over to Sally. So you'll just have to reach out to Sally at the district supervisor's office and ask for the recording link. And also we have a copy of the presentation that we sent over to Sally. And as she mentioned in the chat, that she will provide the task force with the meeting slides of tonight's meeting.
And Ryan, for right now, if you'd just like to advance to the page that shows how to contact the supervisor's office and also FCDOT. Thank you very much.
Okay, we do have questions coming in, so we'll leave the contact info sheet up or slide up for you guys, and then we'll move on to chat. So we have Gibson. Gibson asks, how long does it take for the ballots to get to the task force for distribution?
So once we have been informed that the task force has picked the date and we've reviewed their cover letter and we are ready to go, we will send a template of the ballot and the cover letter and the device map and also the schematics to the task force. The task force will need to print those out and distribute them. So they can choose how they distribute. They can deliver them by hand. Or they can mail them out, but they cannot, pick up those filled out ballots themselves. The person receiving the ballot must fill that ballot out and return it themselves. So, we would generally leave the ballot process open for anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. This is a larger ballot area. You might want to go for 4 or 5 weeks for sure. Plus you would need at least a week for distribution. So that ballot process could take up to 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, and to touch on that, as Steve was saying, we do have, or as Ryan said in the presentation, we do have optional meeting for the ballot phase. We will cover specific details that the task force will need in order to move through this phase. We highly recommend it for a smooth balloting period, since you all have been going at this for some time and working really hard. We just want to make sure that at this tail end of the program that you guys are smooth sailing and leave the votes up to the community.
And so we do have up on the screen right now contact information for FCDOT. So it is dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov. If you're sending in an email with Wilmington Drive traffic calming in the subject line, or you can call 703-877-5600 and ask to talk to somebody about the Wilmington Drive traffic calming process. You can also reach out to the Braddock District Office, and their email address is braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov with the same information in the subject line, Wilmington Drive traffic calming, or you can call 703-425-9300 and ask to talk to Sally. Can I say ask to talk to you about this process? And you should be able to get any questions answered or directed to the appropriate person by Sally.
Okay, so I'm not seeing anything in chat and no hands are raised at this moment, so we can give a couple more minutes, give opportunity for people to write in or raise their hand. So once again, and also, oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, this is Mike again. I am getting a little concerned with the time frame being with the couple of big holidays coming up. So we'll have to discuss that with the Conservancy as well as with the members. I've gone out to the members and asked them what their feelings are post this meeting tonight for moving forward. One of the other things you said, I think you said that we have to provide a letter stating that we want to move forward if that is the recommendation from the task force,
So as
like
far
we
as
did
moving,
before.
so as far as moving forward is concerned, just reaching out to the Braddock office and letting Sally know that you want to go forward is fine. It's not necessarily a letter. It's just communicating that your desire about what you want to do after this meeting. And if you
Okay.
do decide to go forward, again, we do recommend that we meet again and discuss all the various steps for the ballot process. Okay.
Now,
And
I would,
Because I'm also headed to Chile in 7 days, and I'll be on an expedition fjord. So I'm also concerned with just throwing this and leaving it to the vice chair to have to deal with.
yeah, you might want to, wait a little bit of time before you move forward, or try to make that decision or determination.
yeah, we definitely recommend that the task force, almost every task force or everyone that is moving through balloting at this time phase, is that we recommend definitely not during the holiday season. We see a drop in numbers of projects that pass due to balloting around the holiday season. So we typically recommend not balloting during, the last week in November to the second week of January. So we definitely, I know that you guys are eager to push it through, but would hate to see a less of a turnout due to the holidays.
And I think if you all decide to move forward, if the task force decides to move forward, and we're looking at balloting in January or February, excuse me, I think just keeping the conversation in your community going so people don't forget would be beneficial as well.
Good point, Sally.
Yeah, that's one of the things I want to update. The Conservancy has put an RTAP for Wilmington Drive on their website with information on it. So that's why I want to put the presentation there and the link into the presentation so that the community can continue to follow and listen to the update so that they can generate their opinion one way or the other as we move forward for the balloting. I've already gotten 4 yes votes on the task force while I've been sitting here.
Okay. Well, we do recommend that you regather as a task force and, make your decisions about what you want to do as far as going forward. If you do want to go forward, I think you've already reached out to Sally that you do want occupants to vote. So that's one of the decisions that you would need to make. And then also getting that time frame sorted out. And I think we would probably be, it would probably be best to be looking at the beginning of January to start the balloting process or the balloting distribution. Okay, are we seeing anything else in the chat?
No, but we
getting
do have a hand raised. Mark, Matter, you go ahead and you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, yeah, I just posed the question about why would somebody oppose this?
I guess they would probably not want the inconvenience of driving over a device, maybe, but we do find as we go through this process that we get a lot of non-support from some of the community members. Okay, and do we have anything else in chat? And Mark, I'm sorry, the lady who was calling from Mark Matters phone number. Do you have another question?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And if we're not seeing anything else in chat and no more hands are raised, I think we can go ahead and end the meeting for tonight. I want to thank everybody for attending. It was a very well attended meeting and we do appreciate your time. So good night and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you from the task force's position.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Have a good
You're
night.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.